Look, we ask so much, all of us, of our partners in politics, but we only ever wanted a successful Labour government leading a stronger Britain. And my decision last week was about our country, not career. I loved the job. I won't miss going to bed with 3 phones or 3 a.m. phone calls. And I'm proud of what we've done in less than 2 years as a Labour government. We've stepped up international leadership for Ukraine. We've raised defence investment 3 years earlier than anyone expected. Won record defence export deals. Given the armed forces their biggest pay rise for 20 years. Brought 36,000 Forces family homes back into public ownership. Yeah. And we've signed major defence agreements with Germany, Norway, France and the European Union. Delivering for defence, delivering for Britain. Yeah. And the Prime Minister has led this drive, rightly earning respect at home and abroad. He and I jointly commissioned the first of its kind strategic defence review, which has set the vision to transform our armed forces, to make our military more war-fighting ready, better able to deter. And we've been doing exactly this in the 12 months since the SDR was published. Delivering in a different way. Investment with deep reforms to get a grip of budgets, procurement and delivery. Investment so that every taxpayer's pound works twice, once for national security and once to back British industry, create British jobs. Investment in new defence tech, drones and AI that draw lessons from Ukraine for our own UK forces. And I will always seek cross-party common ground on defence, but I won't let the Conservatives forget their record in government or the hollowed-out legacy they left in our armed forces. Mr. Speaker, since the SDR, we've seen the world changing still faster, with threats increasing and demands on defence rising. Conflict in the Middle East, new NATO missions in the High North, the US moving forces away from Europe, intensifying attacks in Ukraine, and increasing Russian aggression towards the UK. NATO has now said we must prepare for war with Russia within the next 5 years. This is the age of hard power and rising threat. This is not the moment for calibration or incremental change. This means bigger politics, bolder priorities, harder choices. And Britain's challenge now is the transformation and the rearmament of our armed forces. The Prime Minister knows what the country needs for defence. He spelled out the threat this month when he said, "It is our intelligence assessment and the assessment of other countries in NATO that there could be an attack by Russia on NATO as soon as 2030. So Britain must set the headmark of spending 3% on defence in 2030 and a clear path to 3.5% in 2035, the commitment all NATO nations have made to each other and to their people. And I believe this would command wide cross-party support. Mr. Speaker, our predecessors in this House experienced what happens when deterrence fails. Our predecessors in this House entrusted us with institutions like NATO that they created to keep us safe. We don't choose the circumstances in which we serve or the responsibilities that fall upon us either in this House or in government. And it's the duty of our political generation now to ready Britain for the uncertainties of the years to come. And the decisions that we make in the months ahead will be judged by those who follow us. At this dangerous time, I see the current defence investment plans falling well short of what is required. A rise of 0.08% from next year to 2030, no date for reaching 3%, no path to 3.5%. By 2030, well over half of NATO members will be spending 3% or more. And when allies are looking for British leadership, we must not fall behind. When NATO needs European nations to step up, we must not fall short. Our adversaries don't follow timetables set by the Treasury. I appreciate how hard this is for Cabinet colleagues, and I'm very grateful to those who support what's required. But not all needs to be done by cutbacks elsewhere. There are credible ways of meeting the midterm funding challenges, working multinationally, and as other nations in Europe are doing. That could allow us to protect the ability to deliver our Labour missions across government. Beyond this, Mr. Speaker, we need a bigger view of national security. It's not just the job for defence or the agencies. Every department has a part to play in national security and national resilience. From energy to transport to health. Security must run through the government like letters through a stick of rock. And security must be felt in the communities right across Britain, reversing long-term decline and bringing new jobs and new hope. For now, Jackie's just grateful I no longer carry 3 phones in my bag, although I do still have my bottle of HP sauce.
We now come to the next personal statement. Al Carns.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'd like to make a speech on my resignation. I want to start by echoing the remarks of so many in the House on the 10th anniversary of the death of Jo Cox. Whilst I did not know Jo, I know what she stood for. Her unwavering commitment to equality has left a lasting legacy, and her words still ring true. More in common than divide us. Still true and still worth fighting for. I'd also like to pay tribute to my right honourable friend from Rochester and Coningsborough. This is the second time I have followed you this week, and it's a privilege to do so. Last week I resigned as a Minister for the Armed Forces. It was an exceptionally difficult decision. I've never quit anything in my life, and my mother will confirm that. She tried to get me to quit the Marines for 24 years, but she failed many times. But I spent those 24 years in uniform. I served in operations around the world. I commanded men and women in combat and carried responsibility for their lives. I buried friends and stood beside families receiving the worst news imaginable. So when I accepted ministerial office, I did so with a simple purpose: to serve those that serve us. I remain grateful to the Prime Minister for the opportunity to do so. I thank my ministerial colleagues, the individuals on this side of the House, civil servants, and above all, the servicemen and women I have had the privilege to represent. But there comes a point when honesty requires action, and for me that point came last week. As honourable members know, I came into politics for one reason, and that was to enact change. But to be able to work out where you're going, we must realise where we have come from. The Labour Party I joined is one that was chiselled out of the mines of the North East. It was hammered out of the shipyards of Govan, Liverpool and Belfast, and it was forged in the factories of the Industrial Revolution. Calloused hands, sore backs, people who did a hard day's graft and asked for one thing in return: a government that has their back. That's the tradition I serve in this House, and it's the tradition that shaped that decision I took last week. And I resigned for several reasons. Firstly, because I no longer believed the Defence Investment Plan was preparing for the wars we are most likely to fight. The character of warfare is changing at an exceptional speed. In Ukraine, a navy without a ship has destroyed a navy. A drone costing thousands can destroy a tank costing millions. A drone can now strike 2,000 kilometres into Russia at a fraction of the cost of a fighter jet. It is not either or. It's an equitable mix of high-end sophistication coupled with low-end mass. That's the balance we must seek, but from my view, the Defence Investment Plan did not strike that balance, for various reasons. I want to give just a small example to bring that home, because it can be often lost. In a town in Ukraine similar to the same size as Hereford, in one day, there were 12,000 drones in the air. Just comprehend that, 12,000 drones in the air, and 90% of all casualties are from drones. Not the rifle, not the grenade, not the tank, not the artillery, but from drones. What will it take? I asked the House, what will it take to realise these figures are not fiction? They're not an embellishment of the truth, but a hard fact born out of the blood and the steel of a hot war. That is the maths of modern war. Millions of drones against high-end sophisticated systems that deliver late with huge levels of inflation and importantly cannot be reproduced at the pace required to sustain a conflict against a major adversary. What will it take to learn this lesson? Do we need to rerun the snatched Land Rover? Do we need to rerun the lack of body armour? Do we need to rerun the lack of protected vehicles in Afghanistan that I saw impact men and women in the front line? We do not, and we should not. Moreover, as the clouds of war darken Europe's border once more, do we need to learn the lessons our forefathers learnt in World War II or indeed the Cold War? This isn't about individual items of equipment or bespoke defence funding lines, but about preparedness, about unity of purpose, prioritisation and national resilience. We are no longer packaging up our military to deploy to a foreign field, but being ready to fight from here, fight from the home base, for democracy, for the right to self-determination and for European security. The reality is we are spending too much time preparing for last year's war, not tomorrow's. And I urge the House to push for transformation, push hard and push for delivery this side of 2030. Secondly, because even if the plan had been right, it was not adequately funded. I do not lay all the blame at number 10 or number 11. We failed, I failed to make that conversation and that argument. But national security and economic security are not competing priorities. They are the same priority. A country that cannot defend itself will not stay prosperous for long. Put simply, a country that cannot defend itself will struggle to protect its prosperity. And thirdly, I left because I could no longer ignore the continued failure to address the treatment of our veterans in Northern Ireland. It's a difficult issue, and I cannot describe how difficult this fight has been. Whatever the view people have of the Troubles, a country owes a duty to those it sent into harm's way under lawful orders. That duty does not end when that uniform comes off. The Labour movement was built on a simple idea, that the people who do the hard work this country asks of them deserves the backing of the state in return. Too many veterans have carried uncertainty for too long, while others have benefited from political accommodations that were never available to those who served, and I could not reconcile that with my own understanding of duty. But, Mr. Speaker, in slightly more detail, the IRA failed to achieve its political ends through the use of terrorist tactics. We must be exceptionally careful that we do not help them achieve those ends through other means. Constant, never-ending legal wranglings that undermine the contract between the nation and those that serve is neither a good use of taxpaying money nor an effective execution of strategy. Inquests, inquiries, and an independent commission creates a hierarchy of truth. It will cost us hundreds of millions for 15 years. Painting the state as an aggressor, supporting our adversaries, political objections, and causing untold anguish for those that only ever deployed to protect us. We have neither the political capital nor the resources to spare for this unjust journey. In broader terms, in 2026, security means more than military strength alone. It means secure borders, secure energy, secure jobs, and secure communities. It means knowing that if you work hard and contribute, one unexpected bill will not push your family into crisis. It means knowing your children will have opportunities you did not. These things are connected. They absolutely are. The cost of living is shaped by conflict thousands of miles from here. Hostile states target our infrastructure, our supply chains, our democracy. Energy security shapes economic security. Economic security shapes social cohesion. And importantly, above all else, social cohesion shapes national resilience. The old line between domestic policy and national security is breaking down in front of us. But, Mr. Speaker, our history points the way. In 1945, Britain was exhausted. We were in debt. Our cities had been bombed. Rationing went on for years, and yet Attlee's government did not conclude that Britain could afford one priority. It built the NHS. It expanded the welfare state. It invested in housing. And it took the decision that Britain would become a nuclear power. Those decisions came from the same understanding of what this government for, what Labour is for, A country worth defending should look after its people. A country that wants to look after its people must be secure enough to do so. That is the Labour tradition. It is also, I would argue, the British tradition at its very best. But somewhere along the way, we have stopped thinking like that. We begin treating defence, growth, energy, public services and social mobility as separate conversations. They are not. They are different parts of the same challenge. Whether Britain can still provide security, opportunity and resilience for its people in a more dangerous world. That is why I ultimately concluded I could no longer remain in government. The issue was never simply a defence budget. It is whether government was moving with the urgency the moment demands. We know nearly 1 million young people outside education, employment or training. We know poor mental health costs this country hundreds of billions. We know our armed forces needs modernising. We know our adversaries are becoming more aggressive. We know our energy system remains exposed. We inherited a mess, but the population is fed up of pointing the finger. They're looking to us for courage, clarity and conviction to make the changes at scale and, importantly, the speed that the nation requires. But, Mr. Speaker, I've seen what our country can do. I've seen it in uniform. I've seen it in the communities across the nation. I've seen it on these benches where we are at our very best. The talent, the ideas, the passion, the courage, it's all here. Indeed, we have it all. I resign because I believe Britain and this Labour government can deliver. I believe we can think longer term. I believe we can act earlier. And I believe we can once again build a country that provides security in the broadest sense of the word. Security for our nation, security for our communities, security for our working families, security for the next generation. That is the debate I'm confident this resignation has started. Thank you.
We'll let the front benches change over.